I have leads.
That boy look like Medea. Let go, Medea.
Turnover by Lord. Blocked by Armstead. Two into the end zone. Caught for the touchdown! Caught for the touchdown! Waddle! Miami has taken the lead!
What the f*** I do?
It's your two favorite degenerates back with another Day One Dolphins podcast, once again hosted by your boy Ouch. Follow me on Twitter at YFinsYY. Here with me, my fellow lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, Chief Sut. Please throw him a follow on Twitter at Chief Sut. Follow our podcast Twitter at Day One Dolphins. Stay up to date. We're going to review this Jets game, talk a little bit about the Commanders game. Let's get down to it. What's going on, Sut?
Not too much, bro. I'm feeling a little bittersweet after that dub. It's always nice to beat the Jets, but it was a sloppy one. RIP to the big homie. You never like to see a season-ending injury like that, and to a guy that we love so much. That just makes it not as awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It sucks that the game was won. Pretty much, there's like 10 minutes left in the game. So it stings even more that it was like so unnecessary. Stings even more, you want to have something to blame it on. And obviously I'm going to go ahead and blame it on the turf.
100%.
But even
it
still.
Took out their quarterback. 80 seconds into the NFL season? You're not going to tell me that it's just a coinky-dink that everybody's just blowing ligaments on the same field every year.
Yeah. And it's not, I remember the 49ers that year that they came off the Super Bowl appearance and were expected to be even better. And everyone on their defense got hurt. I think they lost like 3 players on that field when they went to play the Jets.
Yeah, it was literally 3 or 4 in the same game. And it was like, oh, well, that's the season. And then they had some pretty good picks and, took Trey. I think that was the year before Trey Lance, correct?
I think it was 2020 was the year that they got injured, right?
I feel like they've done it twice in this Shanahan era where they ball out, everybody gets hurt for a year, they get some good picks, and then they re-ball out again.
Yeah.
But either way, it sucks.
Yeah, where would you put Jalen Phillips? Like, if you had to list him in top Miami Dolphins players, where does he's like, what, 6, 5,
5 was about where my head was at. And if you want to talk long-term potential, we've been talking about him since we drafted him. Like, he's everything you want physically. And now that he's starting to get the actual linebacker side down and not just being a pure pass rusher, but he is getting his pass rush game up, it's been awesome to watch. And we were complaining. Well, I was complaining. I don't know how much you were complaining. I'd have to run the film back. But when he wasn't getting as many sacks in the first couple games, everybody's expectations, and when I say everybody, I mean me, was, at least a sack or 2 a game. I don't think he's on that Myles Garrett level, but there's literally no reason why he can't with just how big and fast and quick and strong he is. Like, I'd almost go as far as say he's unlimited.
Well, we know who Mr. Unlimited is. And side note, he's on like a 5-game win streak right now.
Baby. He's hot.
He's cooking right now. Of course, I'm not gambling on him all year like I did last year because,
'cause you're smart and you learn. Because as soon as you gamble on him now, he'll lose.
Yeah, for sure. But Jalen Phillips, yeah, he's a specimen, man. I remember actually, like, during the group chat, I was kind of like upset that we took him because of the injuries. Because like I knew he like quit playing football for like a solid amount of time, and I was like, look, man, I'm not trying to have to an injury prone player. Jalen Waddle was drafted off a broken ankle, and then Jalen Phillips as well, and I'm just like, and Austin Jackson, we're drafting him. He's giving away bone marrow. I'm just like, what is going on, dude?
Armstead, who barely plays.
Yeah, it's just, it is nothing against him or his body of work. I just was like, why is everyone we're taking it injury prone? So I had mentioned that for sure. I wanted us to take Micah Parsons, but obviously he got taken.
Of course, yeah. We would have taken him. I thought we were going to take him with the Waddle pick, but I understood.
Yeah.
I
like the
and
Waddle pick.
Me too. I also wouldn't have been mad if we would have went Penei Sewell and then Michael Parsons. But either way, I like the way it came out.
I was a advocate for Waddle in that pick. Everyone wanted Chase. I was like, yo, Kyle Pitts or Jalen Waddle. And
a lot of people really wanted Pitts.
I mean, to be fair, I think he would have done better just about anywhere other than where he is right now. He could be a household name, but they just don't want it to happen. I actually am dropping him in fantasy.
He is a household name, but not for anything positive. Everybody knows who he is because he just screws everyone every week. And it's not him. I've been telling you guys since week 1 when you guys started getting after me in the group chat. Arthur Smith is the devil. He's Satan. He's the worst. And he's doing that out of spite clearly now. When he goes on his press conferences,
imagine if
it's just so condescending.
Well, we'll see. He's going to get traded out of there, but Jalen Phillips for the Miami Dolphins will not be traded out here, and I'm happy to see that he's already optimistically attacking it. We can transition this into the episode of Hard Knocks that was released last night.
That was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was. Spoiler alert also, if you haven't watched it, but spoiler alert, you guys were going on about it in the chat. I couldn't watch it until 4 hours later, but it was very sad, but I also was happy to see at the end of the episode to see him really optimistic about it. He was still joking and laughing and rolling around on his little wheel thing, you know what I mean? Day one, you know what I mean? They just did your surgery and you're already making jokes and talks about how when he broke his wrist, when he got hit by the car over in UCLA, that he had to really treat it like it was an uphill battle, every day kind of thing to attack the rehab, and how it made it so much easier for him mentally because it's a depressing thing to go through, and I'm sure it's even worse now because he's having a career year. And, even beforehand, you saw Mike McDaniel talk about how this is a primetime game. You're going to be a household name after this. And it's just sad, but
the saddest part, though, was when he was starting to get it was the reality was hitting him, and then they're putting him on the cart. And he said, I was hooping too, bro. I was hooping. I was like, oh my God, he was hooping. Come on, dog. Yeah, we know you were. And that's why he can attack his rehab, bro. He's almost had a proof of concept at this point. He knows he can play at the NFL level. He knows he can produce. He knows he can. I'm not going to jump out and say dominate, but for the last 4 or 5 weeks, our defense has been dominant. So
it doesn't matter because, and this is what goes into me when I actually think about and evaluate the status of players, whether on our team or other people's teams. I try to I don't separate myself from the team in the sense of fandom so much that I can't empathize with the human situations like this that go on. And it's Bradley Chubb went through a similar scenario where he was coming off a solid year and it was his second year in the Vic Fangio scheme or whatever, and he was about to kill it. They just got another pass rusher for the other side of him, and he was supposed to take off, and then he tore his ACL. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of guys that are Emmanuel Ogbo was like that before he left the Chiefs, and people will next year, Jalen Phillips isn't going to play for a year. So it's going to be Thanksgiving time by the time that he's back. Maybe I
don't know. Aaron Rodgers is back in 3 months. Phillips might be back for but week 1, maybe even camp.
Nah, no chance in my book.
I'd prefer him not to be.
Think about the difference in their Think about the difference in their position.
Well, and also our boy Cam Wake, the legend, he came back from an Achilles tear, and I want to say he dropped double-digit sacks for the boys. So if he ever needs an example or someone to look up to,
that was 2016,
somewhere in that vicinity.
He tore it 2015. Yeah, that was ungodly. I don't know what that was, but that's not the norm, and I expect that. It may be a little bit earlier, but it's supposed to be 3 months heal, 6 months rehab or something like that, or 4 months rehab. But either way, he is attacking it the way that I think that Cameron Wake probably did as a businessman. You know how Cam Wake was. He's look, man, I'm getting this money. That's that.
Cam Wake's cheat meal was a slice of bacon, on the week.
What a dog.
Yeah, he was completely clean from alcohol. He didn't do anything. He just said, when the off season comes, I can, dabble in a little bit more. But during the season, yeah, strip of bacon, that's my cheap meal.
Meanwhile, you got Ocho Cinco eating McDonald's 3 times a week minimum.
Yes, sir. Bags, not just a little bit, not just getting a sandwich and some fries. Like that boy was grabbing the whole breakfast.
He's picky. He used to come in and when I was at that sports bar in Los Angeles for a while, he used to come in all the time, and I'd always talk to him. And he is picky. He don't drink. He'll drink 3 Red Bulls. He'll sit there and drink 3 Red Bulls in front of you, but he don't drink alcohol. He wants some food, and he's gonna be like, "Can I have it without this? Maybe with this, or do you have any of this?" Like he's real extra with what he wants. Food. I
respect it. He's Ocho.
Yeah, but JP, hoping you get better fast, brother. I know there's gonna be people on Twitter next year talking about how he's injury prone and how the people will forget. That was my point about not disconnecting from, empathizing with the players. Sometimes as fans, they'd be like, he sucks. I don't care. I'm always going back and forth. It feels like playing devil's advocate on Twitter to other Dolphins fans, mind you, about, Jerome Baker, Christian Wilkins, Bradley Chubb, any of these people,
Christian Wilkins. And you want to talk about that guy? How good is that guy?
I mean, he definitely won his holdout versus Chris Greer.
He's racking up sack numbers at this point, and that was the only thing that people were holding over his head. He was always good against the run. He was always good against just blowing up gaps and the cutesy defensive tackle, interior defensive line stuff that you expect guys to do. But he doesn't get the sack numbers that I like to see. So now he is getting the sack numbers and the TFL numbers. How much are we going to have to pay him? Because we're going to have to pay Tua since we gambled on both of those. I understand gambling on Tua, and it made the most sense then, so I'm cool with that one. But, yeah, I've been pounding the table to pay Christian before the season started, just paying whatever he wants just to make him happy. But now it's going to cost us more than what he wanted to make him happy back then. So
a little bit.
I don't care. More, but not my money.
No, I know. Everyone always says that, and it's kind of silly, but it's not about how expensive a player is. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, we paid Ndamukong Suh, whatever money after he left. Ryan Tannehill was getting paid after he left. Like, it's the dead cap like that matters, and it's where the money falls in what years. And it is going to get hard. We're coming up on, we have created a window. A Super Bowl window, contending window, money-wise. And it is going to close. 3 years from now, it's going to be looking pretty dark compared to what it is right now. A lot of these guys aren't going to be able to be paid. But I think Christian Wilkins is a priority. And I think Tua probably has a little bit more wiggle room in his contract, just based on, how up and down his career and the narrative has been and how supportive Miami's obviously been with him. I'm hoping there's a little bit of wiggle room, at least with where the money falls in what years. Greer's done a pretty good job.
Yeah, Tua's not going to bang us over the head. He understands what he has here. I don't think he's going to be, Tom Brady taking a pay cut type of beat or anything like that. But I don't think he's going to ask for anything egregious or kind of hold out and push for some crazy number like Lamar did a little bit.
But honestly, it's probably more the agent than anybody, right? They just kind of throw their hands up and go, "Hey, it's my agent, man."
But that's what I'm saying. Lamar was his own agent. I don't think Tua's mindset's even close to that. And I feel like Tua's the kind of guy where does he still have Lee Rosenberg? If it's him, he just tells him "Yo, bro, I'm not really trying to do all that. I want to just take a fair pay. My dad and my uncle said, this will be good. This is league average. I talked to my financial guy. I can afford to take this to keep the team together." I think he's more on that side of the boat than I need every dollar I can get.
Would be awesome. As a fan, that would be awesome, right? But we'll see what happens.
It gets real. It gets real in that
Christian
room.
Wilkins ain't. Christian Wilkins is not. Christian Wilkins said, "Look, his ego involved. He's like, you need to make me the highest paid."
It's also different. It's way different for a defensive player.
But I don't understand where you're upset about the incentives for the sack money. I don't know if there's a discrepancy for Christian Wilkins over their some of your money being held out with the incentivized sack numbers, or if it just wasn't enough incentive money, enough money that for the sacks. And
or
because I'm like, if you were going to get 6 sacks already halfway through the season, then you would have been fine signing that contract. So
it's his first year in the system. The system might not necessarily lead to him generating a bunch of sacks. Yeah, Fangio might say that it does, and they might try to tell him that it does. But until he plays in it himself and knows that, that's kind of risky. Now that he knows, oh, yeah, I actually do rack up sacks with how these stunts play out and how these other little plays play out. So, all right.
Yeah, you got to commit. And then, man, somebody on this podcast was saying in the beginning of the year that Fangio wasn't really calling up that pressure like that. We saw a couple hints of it in the final maybe 2 minutes of the Chargers game week 1.
Yeah, he sent the dogs.
The final minutes of the New England game week 2 or whatever it was. We saw a couple minutes of it towards the end of every game. But there's been some games more recently where he just, he's drawing up some stuff where them guys are getting in for a quarter straight.
Facts.
And Christian Wilkins is, oof, man.
McDaniel said it on the on Hard Knocks that his favorite part of the game is that end of the game when Phillips and Chubb are just going hard. And as he's saying it, you see Christian go flying to make a play, and then the ends meet him there. But it's just so awesome to watch him every single week. He continues to be probably my favorite player on defense. I love Javon Holland too, though. And I love X.
I was going to say, my favorite player on defense is, besides X, is always going to be Javon Holland.
Can't ban the Snowman, baby. How about it? How about it?
People don't even get it. People don't even realize. First off, it's pretty rare for you to have a DB who's a punt returner or kick returner. Every once in a while there's a guy who can do it. We got one.
A good one.
And that definitely helped. But not only that, just how out of breath he was after running 90 yards?
Yeah.
And then the quarterback had you.
He apologized.
You were out of breath and the quarterback had you, and you just broke his ankles at the last 5 yards right there to make sure that you were getting in. And that I respect
disgusting. That. He hit him with the meanest, just whap. The full head fake, sold the shoulders. It was just art. You're not even gonna touch me.
I was exhausted for him. I didn't think he had the juice left in him to make that extra move, man. But he was like, "Nah, I'm getting this touchdown." Yeah. That was awesome. But in the moment, I didn't really get to. I guess I appreciated it, but it did come right after, a two interceptions within 60 seconds. So I was kind of like, oh God, I was still caught up on that first interception. Yeah. The second one, well, you tell me how break down how you felt about that if we're gonna pick it apart. Obviously, it was only 2-3 bad throws the entire game, so it's tough, But
I feel like we probably. I was gonna ask you what you would attest it to, but I feel like we probably agree on the first one at least. He was trying to throw an out, and if there's one spot you cannot put a ball when you're throwing it out, it's behind the receiver because the guy covering him is probably in that vicinity. So instead of leading him like he normally does, and he usually should, he just kind of, I'm not going to say he got lazy, but he kind of was just going through the motions there for a second and didn't push the ball out far enough to the sideline like he should have, and kind of just made that one kind of easy for the DB. If you're a corner just doing your job, it seemed like it was man. And even if that's zone, you can't put it behind him because that's the one spot where the receiver has to work to get back to the ball and either stop it or catch it. But
no, I think it's worse. Yeah. It was cover 6. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
And Buddy's shooting up, trying to chase. If he's chasing and you put it behind him, you're literally throwing a direct shot to him at full speed, which is what it was. And it's like, dang it. And then the second one, the DJ Reed one, he just got way too ballsy. I understand we like to force feed the ball to Tyreek every once in a while, but he was covered, brother. And sometimes you can squeeze him in there when he's covered, but you had the short side of the field. There wasn't a lot to work with, and you really tried squeezing it in on somebody who's really good. DJ Reed is no scrub. So for you to try to really just zing one in there like he's some rookie corner, that was ballsy. And again, I'm not calling him lazy. I just think Tua's getting pretty cocky with this new offense, and I like it. I prefer cocky Tua over beating myself up and getting all sad on the sideline Tua. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you to a certain extent. I think I wasn't really upset with the second one because the situation called for you to just try to push the ball, and it was like, 6 seconds left on the clock, and you're just trying to get some points before the half, and you're throwing it towards like out of bounds almost,
Right.
where it kind of was. I think the ball was a hair off. It should have been where only Tyree could get it, but then again, it was a great defensive play. And if you're going to force the ball in that situation, I totally understand why. Like, that's the time that you do it. That's when you see quarterbacks throw meaningless interceptions. They don't care that it's going to go on the stats. They're just like the Hail Mary that Tim Boyle threw. You know what I mean? Like, that's just like, that's an interception that you're going to take.
You live with.
Unfortunately for them, that was a pick six, but that's the one thing you don't want to happen off of that worthless interception. But the first one, there's so many levels to it. First off, terrible play call. In no world does Mike McDaniel call that play versus cover six. It's like, just, I don't understand. That's not to absolve Tua of any blame, because you're now, year 4, year 3, year 4,
and I'm
whatever.
sorry, the look was there. If he leads him instead of throwing it behind him, that's a completion for 5 yards.
Well, I watched it a bunch of times. I saw it immediately. You watch him like double hitch as well.
Yeah.
So like
that's going to lead to a bad throw off rip.
He always leads. This instance, he stares the receiver down. He double hitches and like hesitates, and then he doesn't really put enough into it either. And that's just so abnormal for him, in my opinion, because he's always almost like an annoying level of like tricking defenders with his eyes. So he's not staring down receivers like this all the time. So I thought that was weird. And then I thought like the double hitch and like not being confident in the throw was weird. And then I thought like just where you put the ball, knowing that it was not a good look, like you could have just thrown it out of bounds again, like, almost, or it could have just been in a place where only your receiver could have got it or it wasn't caught, And then on top of that, like I said, just bad play call, and it shouldn't have been called versus that defense at all. Tua should know by now that if your head coach calls, like, he's not perfect. You can't just blindly put all your faith into Mike McDaniel and just say, well, coach called it, I'm just going to rip it. You know what I mean?
Not?
Like, I get that after a while that works so well that you might not even second guess it, but you got to do some like proofreading here yourself. So it just was very unlike him, and I would say that's one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen him throw, to be honest. That was that was really, really, really bad. Like, really bad. I was like jaw dropped.
The double hitch especially, it's almost like his brain is expecting and assuming that he's going to get one thing, and then when he gets something else, he just goes into like a frazzle, just panic mode. And nothing irks me more than when he just stares down and then does those double pump weird things, because it's not like he has the legs to really take off. And when he takes off, he might get 3, 4, 5. But
I think that's a common misconception. I know he doesn't have the legs like that, but like
he'll scoot.
Was his mobility changed because of his hip injury, or is it changed because it's been drilled into his head for, I don't know, since before the hip injury with Coach Saban, that, hey, don't be Superman. Hey, that's your biggest flaw, is that you don't know when to give up on the play, Tua. That's what he's been told. That was the biggest deal, like, of him. We talked about this pre-draft before we drafted Tua. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was always the issue. Well, now you're in this offense where you have the ball out of your hands in 2 seconds flat. People are crying when you don't let the play, you don't let the play develop long enough to see it. I'm like, what do you guys want? But
he doesn't run the ball terribly. And when he does tuck
I think
it,
he's more mobile.
But he isn't running the ball less this year, actually. He has 27 carries on the year, which on 11 games, he only played 13 last year. He had 24 last year. That was for 70 yards, and right now he's at 40. So his yards per carry is cut in half from last year. I don't think it's anything more than he's put on so much weight that he don't even
maybe, and he's not used
you
to
know what I
running
mean.
with
So he
it.
just doesn't trust it. And he doesn't care to. He really doesn't need to.
He does look a little slower, but like we've both seen him in the past scoot and you know like
He
and
scooted,
another
he
thing if
scooted
we're
a
gonna
couple
talk
weeks
about
ago. It was like a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. They ran a little man, no
but
spy.
once
He took that
he
thing.
ain't dodging nobody anymore. He's just not dodging anybody. The first defender around him is the one that gets him where he slides.
that boy
'Cause he's
slides.
like,
Believe
come on,
that.
bro. What happened to you juking Deion Jones out of his socks? What happened to you? You know, like. Who else did he do it to? Kyle Van
buddy from the
Noy
Jets ran him over.
Well, that was what I was gonna say. That was kind of awesome, but well, look, bro, you tried to do it again this week, and that's why you got the white meat hanging out of your arm, like a laceration, deep laceration. Like it wasn't even really bleeding; it was so deep, and that was from him trying to truck that defender. Also, like, if you're not gonna be mobile because we're scared about you having your career ended due to concussions. Let's not go and try to truck a DB or a defender or a linebacker or whoever it was, like a safety. Like, let's just stop doing that. Let's just stop doing that.
Coach.
No, that right there is like 1 second away from everyone's fun in the season being over. And it's just like, all right, cool. If you're going to go ahead and play like that, then I would prefer to see the offensive line try to give you 5 seconds to throw the ball. If everything's out the window and we're off the table about keeping you healthy and you want to just run full force into a defender, we might as well try to do some other stuff too then. You know what I mean? Like, it's either one or the other for me. You're either protecting yourself or you're not. Stop doing that silly stuff. I don't want to see it anymore.
I think he's gotten that memo. I think he's understanding. He's still fumbling the ball a lot, which
I think he's
which is
not
pissing me off.
I think he's not understanding it. He keeps doing it.
He's really not running that much though.
But we see him try to take a defender on like once every 5
once
games
in a
or something
while,
like
and
that.
it's
I'm
usually just trying to get to the sticks. Just to the sticks.
I don't see. I see every other quarterback that does it. The only other person I've ever really seen do it is like Baker Mayfield, Ryan Fitzpatrick,
Big boy Summer. Who is a thick
guys
boy?
that don't have the twitch. So once it's too late, they just like, well, I got to go through you.
Yay.
But you're not. Tua's not going
Yes,
through
he
anybody,
is.
man. It ain't
I
happening.
seen it.
It ain't
If he
happening.
didn't do it versus the Jets last year, I wouldn't agree. But like
that poor defender, he was just like, oh, he's gonna slide right, and Tua just drove through
yeah.
him.
I'm sliding. All right, sliding right through you, dog.
Yeah, I'm about to slide to your house,
Got
boy.
him. But nah, that
Oh,
was
man.
overall. What would you give Tua's grade on that game? Like if you were giving him like a teacher, A to F.
I'll give it a C plus B minus, maybe somewhere in there, mainly because that first half was tough, man. The way you ended it, and then I'm like, hey, you have to beat them now throwing the ball because they feel confident that they're going to take the ball away from you because they have. So they come out, they throw that go route to Tyreek Hill where it looks like, you know, he's like 2 steps away from just burning DJ Reed for a touchdown. And then just do one for the fan base one time, Tua. Watching Sauce Gardner get toasted by Jalen Waddle with an absolute dime from Tua right there to just really like, hey, how do you do when you don't have your hands full of jersey? What happens when you don't got both hands full of jersey on Jalen Waddle? What happened when Skylar Thompson ain't the QB?
Case.
Mr. I'm the best corner in the league because I played 6, 7, 8 backup QBs in one season where no referee would call a penalty on me. Nah, I couldn't be any happier to see Sauce Gardner get humbled and toasted out there. So that was awesome. He came back out of the second half and gave a go ball on each side to be both sides, one to Tyreek, one to Jalen Waddle. Got a couple runs in. Game was over.
Got some really strong, hard runs in that we were begging for going into the game. The fact that Raheem got his 20 carries, El Jefe got his carries, and I think he had 11. That was kind of what we needed going into it. Just run the ducking haul. We kind of knew that going into it, passing was going to be tough, and I can agree with I would have originally said a C minus, but I can see a B minus, C plus because he did only take 2 sacks. The 2 interceptions were insane, But overall, that's a really good defense, and he didn't get torn up as bad as they have the ability to tear people up. And we still put up 34 points, even though 7 of those are on defense, 6 of those are on defense, whatever you want to look at it. Like, either way, he put up 20 plus. You can't get mad at the kid for that. And now we get a not an easier defense, but a little bit less stressful. I think the Manders are still pretty physical, and they got a really, really tough D-line to match up with our funky O-line. So, I don't know. I guess it was kind of a good tune-up.
Before we move off the Jets, I just want to say I had to talk some people down off the ledge during the game because then you hear how I just talked about the interceptions too. You know what I mean? That's my thoughts. It's not like I'm absolving them of blame for it. I was disgusted by it. I was happy that it was versus the Jets because their offense didn't look like they can do anything. But you do that against another team, and I'm going to be even more disgusted, and there's going to be a little bit of fear in there too. That was just disgust without the fear. Disgust and the fear together, that's not a good combo when you're standing in your living room 3 inches away from the flat screen.
Work.
But Jalen Hurts threw 3 interceptions to the Jets defense. Josh Allen threw 3 interceptions to the Jets defense. Pat Mahomes threw 2 interceptions to the Jets defense. It is a good defense. They're used to not being able to move the ball on offense. They're hungry. As you can see, they are hateful. They are not having a good time, as Mike McDaniel pointed out in the Hard Knocks episode. And they're out there to just disrupt and have fun at your expense. So it's not exactly a scary team in the sense of like contender-wise, but it is a scary team because they got nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose, and it's one of those teams where the defense is so significantly stronger than the offense that they know they have to do the heavy lifting,
and they hate
right?
us. They're going to get another crack at us too.
And I think it's going to be.
I think we roll them a little bit smoother this next time around. They might try to.
Is Aaron Rodgers going to be the quarterback?
If Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, you might as well start Tim Boyle because I'm sorry, I just don't see a world where Aaron Rodgers comes back from this and just runs around and starts skipping passes all over the place. Like
maybe if you had the 49ers offensive line, the Cowboys offensive line, the Eagles offensive line. Maybe. But you have the worst offensive line in football. The Jets. Yeah. Like, they're bottom 2 have to be. And that's before the injuries. You know what I mean? Like, they're not doing well. So why would you do that? And I do agree that, like we talked about, Aaron Rodgers might be able to come back. He doesn't need to explode off the ground with his feet in order to play the position like Jalen Phillips would. So I do think it's possible for you to be out there flat-footed, lay down and take every sack that comes to you and just try to throw the ball out in the pocket and not be mobile. I think it's possible. But for a team that's already pretty much all but eliminated out of the playoffs,
what's the point?
Why?
What are you trying to prove?
I can't tell if it's an ego thing or if he feels he owes it to the fan base because of all the hype and how he's kind of been there to usher them back into having a hopeful season. Or what?
It's got to be for the show. Because we were talking earlier about people whose jobs are on the line and they're sitting on a hot seat. I mean, Salah's sitting on a hot seat, and if he can just show proof of concept a little bit more, like, look, Aaron's going to be back, and everything's going to be fine. He's already practicing. It could just buy himself and the rest of them a little bit more time. But I think it's just a little show to try to get everybody excited. Like you said, there's really no reason to put him in. Jets fans, not all of them are the smartest cookies in the. I'm about to call them stupid, and I sound stupid, so I'm just going to leave it there. But I don't.
Not the smartest box in the rock.
There we go.
Rock in the box.
Yeah, there we go. We're killing it over here. Look at those dumb Jets fans.
You're supposed to say it backwards. It sounds stupid. Yeah. It's supposed to be whatever you say. You're supposed to say it backwards.
Everybody's stupid except for Coach McDaniel and Tua. But I'm not worried about them. I'm ready to see them in this next one. I think this Aaron thing is just to kind of get some hope where there is none. But there's no point in actually having him play. Like, just the fact that he's back practicing and running around, and if you get him in some, drills and stuff, that's sick enough. And, maybe that'll inspire.
I mean, at this point, why win any more games?
Yeah. Get some linemen.
How many wins? They have 4 or 5?
4.
How many wins? Yeah, 4? No, lose out, brother.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and lose out. Take that draft pick. Come back with Rodgers. But I don't know. I think that Saleh is not as on the hot seat as people think he is. I think that we talked earlier. before we started recording about Ron Rivera for the Washington Commanders, the head coach for the Washington Commanders, who we do play, and we're going to start talking about here in a moment, and about whether he's on the hot seat or not. And then we talked about how the offensive coordinator he just brought in, Eric Bieniemy, was the former offensive coordinator for Patrick Mahomes and Chiefs head coach Andy Reid, and that he took a lateral move to Washington to be the offensive coordinator, same job position. I mean, kind of, but we're just questioning why. And then we talked about it, I said maybe it's because he doesn't see a future in Kansas City, because by the time that Reed's not the head coach anymore, it's probably not going to be a great roster. And that maybe Washington's on the upswing. He knows he has a better chance of being the head coach of a team that's future's bright, and if Ron Rivera is sacked. And then I talked about how I think that it's very important, your relationship with the owner as a potential head coach or a head coach, and that how Mike McDaniel, our head coach, had talked about when he was mentored by Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers head coach, that he said, when you're going to get your first head coaching position, one of the biggest factors you need to factor in is your relationship with the owner. Who are they? Their philosophy? Are you going to be friends? What's the dynamic between your work relationship? And he said it was very important to feel like you were, it was a positive, friendly relationship, and maybe I think that I bring this all back in to talk about Saleh, because I think that that's what Saleh and Joe Douglas have. I think that, the GM and the owner, I forget the owner's name over there,
Woody.
but I think that they like Saleh. Yeah, Woody. And I think that they're all in the same understanding of the situation in the quarterback room, and because of when everything happened and how think about our season with Jay Cutler and Ryan Tannehill, when Tannehill tore his stuff right in preseason.
Texas A&M wide receiver Ryan Tannehill. Yep, I had season tickets that year.
Yeah. We ran into each other at a game.
I'm pretty sure that was Jets game.
It was a Jets game. It all comes full circle, baby. Matt Moore came in that game to replace Jay Cutler.
Big dubs, Matty Moore.
We had at least like preseason games. You know what I mean? We had like 3-4 weeks before the season started when Tannehill tore his ACL.
This man $10 million.
This happened drive one of game one for the Jets. Like, you don't get to bring somebody in and run an offense with them. You know what I mean? There was nobody really available. They should have pursued Josh Dobbs, but I feel like if you could coach Zach Wilson up just a little bit, you get a little Josh Dobbs out of him. You know what I mean? He's mobile.
What's the difference? You're bringing in a guy that doesn't know the system versus a guy that does. Maybe Dobbs is like a little bit more clear in the head and can just.
He's got that dog in him. I can't lie. Dobbs has got that Dobbs.
Yeah, he's got that Dobbs in him. But maybe Zach's got some too. All these Jets fans been screaming it for years, and all these BYU fans.
I don't see it.
I've never seen it. I've seen a cannon.
Well, you watch that. If you look at that little highlight tape that goes around the internet of what happened to this Zach Wilson, and it just shows him at BYU kind of balling and like being full of himself, like we talked about last episode, he doesn't look confident, and he needs to be confident. So but in the sense of the panicked in the beginning of the season, what do we do? We're going to bring in another quarterback. No, I kind of get them just saying, hey, we got to go down
Zach's
with this
our guy. We're going to be confident in him. We took him way too early in the draft. We just got to ride it.
Mm-hmm.
And
it just sucks to be for a team that's defense is so good, and so contender ready, and then you to be that inept on one side of the ball. But hey, we watched that, right?
I was about to say, I wish I could feel bad for you, Pimpin', but you're in the division, and I don't like you. So I can respect your pain, but I will not feel bad for you.
But moving on to the Washington Commanders game, which would be on this Sunday, and we play at what?
No, it's at FedEx. Yes,
Is
sir.
it? Good
I know.
God.
I don't like it.
One of the worst stadiums in the league,
We're not
baby.
home. We're home 1, 2, 3 in a row after FedEx, and then we go to the bank.
Big bank.
Take a little bank. And that's to close the season. We got a fire run right now.
I also do want to, before I forget, talk about how great Jerome Baker's game was after I argued with everyone online about him not being as bad as they thought he was. He had just a crazy game for Jerome Baker, and he plays 100% of the snaps every single week, doesn't leave the field. We'll leave it at that. Washington Commanders game. Give me 3 names that you think of when I say Washington Commanders.
I prefer when you say Washington football team, but your favorite running back, Brian Robinson. Yes, sir.
Where's that football, man?
I feel like Scowl is too low hanging a fruit, so I want to go defensive. I like Deron Payne a lot. I would have liked to have him out of the draft.
Sneaky
very
one.
Sneaky. And another sneaky one that I liked that I was talking about earlier, Derek Forrest. I don't know how popular of a name he is. I just know I watched a few games last year, and it felt like he was just grabbing interceptions and returning them to the crib and forcing fumbles and just ending games himself quite a few times. I'm like, this guy's a playmaker. You add that on the back end to that stout of a defensive line where basically everyone is a first-round pick out of Alabama. Like, they got some stuff. I am thankful, talking about Thanksgiving, that they traded away Montez Sweat as well as Chase Young. But
yep, and didn't they fire somebody too?
Jack Del Rio?
No.
Yeah,
Maybe.
they're DC.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they fired the defensive
Del Rio
coordinator.
have another job in a couple months. He always has work.
Well, that's a good look for us because their defense is still okay. It would be a lot better with the pass rush, I agree. But names that stand out to me that I would think of is I do respect Kendall Fuller a little bit. I kind of, he stands out to me. And then obviously Terry McLaurin, just absolute dog. And I also respect the hell out of Logan Thomas. I think he's a good player.
Virginia Tech quarterback Logan Thomas.
No,
yes,
is it
sir.
Really? Logan Thomas played quarterback in
he
college?
was a beast at quarterback at Virginia Tech.
No way. I did not remember that.
He's one of those Terrell Pryor kind of guys that just like couldn't make it at quarterback, so just switched positions and he put on some weight.
And he went to tight end. This is how they should have done Tim Tebow off the bat, bro.
I liked it at fullback.
But yeah. I like them all. I think that their offense is obviously better under Bieniemy. They're very limited. Their offensive line is porous. It's a tough game to think about how happy I want to be about the ability that the Dolphins should have to sack this quarterback. He's taken, 55 sacks, you said?
55 for the Scowl.
And that's the most in the league, correct?
So.
If there was somebody that took more, it would either be Zach Wilson, who hasn't played every game, or Russell Wilson, who's had a couple good games, or who else takes a lot of sacks?
Let's take a look.
Nah, that would be one of those guys.
Or
Justin Fields.
Fields or Danny Dimes, but they've missed so many games that they might be able to avoid that.
Fields takes so many sacks, he might still be up there.
I'm still thankful the Jets didn't take him. Don't care.
Yeah. He looked very good in that game that we watched. It was a terrible football game, but he had some special moments in it for sure.
Yeah. So, I got it for you. Sam Howell at 55, Bryce Young at 40, Zachy at 38.
There you go. And he hasn't played anywhere near as many games.
Fun fact: you talk about Justin Fields. He's been sacked the same amount of times as Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson.
Don't even get me on a Jalen Hurts tangent on here,
saying,
boy. You're not going to like what I have to say. You're not going to like what I have to say.
Best offensive line in football. Right? And to take it a step further, they've all been sacked 29 times. Tommy DeVito, who's played in 3 games, has Tommy DeVito. He's been sacked 28 times. So him and Daniel Jones combined is 58 sacks, which is more than Howell. But
that's one quarterback as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know. Tommy D. I don't know. He looks all right. It looks like he comes from a good family.
Hey, Danny.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, Tom.
They take care of the family over there. They make some good gravy. I like him. He's a good kid.
Oh, man. I'm glad they're not on the Jets either. It'd be so funny. It doesn't matter. There isn't a single quarterback in the state of New York that doesn't just throw interceptions like it's actually their job.
Tyrod Taylor was doing all right. He just, can't get right after he got stabbed in the heart.
Yeah, the lungs. You want to know another quarterback that we haven't mentioned that is on the Commanders? Jacoby Brissett, backup. We know him well.
Big homie.
So hopefully, we don't have to see him. Hopefully Howell plays a nice, healthy game. He does lead the league in passing yards, though, Sam Howell does.
Barely.
I mean, it's by a couple hundred, I feel, but have the Commanders had their bye week thus far? Or is that, that's not inflated by...
No, I don't think it is. He's only got it by 100, not even 100. CJ Stroud's at 32.66. Howell's at 33.39. So he's got him by 70, 80 yards.
Yeah, and
he's got Tua by
and they
200.
have their bye week next... They have their bye week after the game.
So Stroud...
So that makes sense.
Josh Allen hasn't had his bye week either, right?
I'm not sure, but I know that CJ Stroud had his bye week earlier in the year because I had him in fantasy. But this is Josh Allen's bye week right
Tua
now.
and CJ Stroud have the same yards per attempt.
Wow, that's crazy. CJ Stroud looks amazing. I don't want to go off on. We're talking about so many other players.
You can't put the numbers in front of me, bro. I like them.
I know we can't.
So the Washington football team. So the biggest thing about them is they're going to try to run the ball on us, and then they're going to try to throw it up.
They throw the ball a lot to their running backs too. They throw it more to Antonio Gibson than they do Brian Robinson, but he also gets a fair amount of looks. Then they incorporate Curtis Samuel into some sort of, get him the ball while he's running full speed. He's a shifty guy. Fun fact, we almost signed him during.
Was it the Cedric Wilson?
The 2020. Yeah, it was around that area. We were going to get Cedric Wilson and Curtis Samuel, and then which I wasn't totally against. I thought he as a gadget guy
for sure.
But we got Barrios, we got Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I think we're okay with those guys. But he's solid. Sam Howell obviously takes a lot of sacks, like we said, but he is going to let that thing rip, which is why he accounts for how many interceptions?
13 of them things.
And to how many touchdowns are we talking?
18 of them things.
Okay, so not the greatest, but for what he's been given over there, I compared him to it's like if Ryan Fitzpatrick had a son or something, he just he's constantly taking hits, constantly lowering his shoulder, constantly moving, and he's a second leading rusher on their team.
Yeah,
right?
Just doing crazy honky stuff.
Exactly. That's another good way to sum it up. Yeah, just like that. He is, and I respect him.
He has the same amount.
I just don't
same
think
amount of carries as Antonio Gibson, and he has 70 more yards.
Yeah, he does. He makes some crazy plays happen though, so we got to be on point. Obviously, Terry McLaurin, their receiver, is. God bless him. His career has been so not underwhelming compared to what it probably should have been if he would have been. Imagine he was on the Cowboys or on the Dolphins or on the Bills or Eagles.
It's
he
disrespectful
would be
to his game that he plays there, and he has 2 touchdowns on the season.
And you're never going to hear him cry about it once. You're never going to see no memes about him asking to be saved and freed like Stephon Diggs cries about. And, he's just out here working. And I respect that man, too. But he's going to get tore up by Jalen Ramsey.
X and Cater. Because, we were talking about it going into the last game. We're it'll be interesting to see if they just spy one. They really, since the Raiders game, they've been throwing all 3 corners at whoever your best 1 or 2 guys are. And no matter if you put them in the slot, you put them out left, you put them out right, you're going to get all 3, and all 3 are ready for you. It's kind of dope to see. Cater holds his own versus pretty much anyone. If you throw it near Ramsey, he's picking it, and they don't even look X's way anymore. It's awesome.
I am a little bit worried about I was talking about how I'm not worried about the run game as much as, you'd think, because our rush defense has been one of the best in the league. Especially since Jalen Ramsey came back. But
man, that guy.
We held the Eagles to little rushing yards. We held Josh Jacobs to 40 something yards. We held Pacheco in check. The teams haven't been running the ball against us. But that Jalen Phillips injury is going to play a huge part in that, man. Because the guys that we have back up, Emmanuel Ogbah, Andrew Van Ginkel, and now it'd be a good time to announce that the Dolphins signed Jason Pierre-Paul in the wake of the Jalen Phillips injury. They're trying to get some bodies in there to play the position, and I love that signing. But they're all kind of good at the same stuff. Andrew Van Ginkel separately, but JPP, Pierre-Paul, formerly played for the Ravens, formerly played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, same dude who blew some of his fingers off with the fireworks. He is an established veteran pass rusher in this league who recently has had a success in Baltimore, so he's not washed up. But he's not going to be in pass coverage like Jalen Phillips was. He's not going to be running sideline to sideline with jet sweeps and screens and whatever's going on, wheel routes and stuff like Jalen Phillips was able to. Jalen Phillips with his range, how long his body is, with how quick he is, how fast he is, explosive. He's just unreplaceable. He's not irreplaceable, on this team. So we're going to have some people that are going to be able to pass rush, but not defend the run outside as well as we have been. And I'm looking to see if this might be the first game that a team tries to expose that or not, with Brian Robinson, swing him towards the side where Emmanuel Ogbah is going to be on the edge, because I think Emmanuel Ogbah is a great pass rusher. Just before everyone slanders him, he's great. And even when he got minimal snaps, he's showed up every time he's been on the field.
Including last game.
But he's very limited in the sense he's like not a sure tackler outside. He doesn't set the edge properly. Like, there are some things that him and everyone else we have now on that side that they don't do well that Jalen Phillips did. Pay attention to how teams run the ball to that side now and how it works out. I'll
also say I don't think we're going to just start upping the amount of playing time for Ogbah, and I don't think we're going to, rush JPP into a whole bunch of burn. I also don't think we're going to ask them to do all that. I think they're only going to come in situationally when Van Ginkel or Chubb need a breather. But we're not going to ask them to drop into coverage in the manners that we were asking these other guys, or that we do ask these other guys to do. I think they're just going to bring them into purely pass rush. They will be in either on pass rushing downs or in just situations where, I don't like to say it doesn't matter as much, but kind of like how on offense, once we get those first 2-3 first downs on a drive, you'll see us take out Waddle and Hill. You'll see River Craycraft and somebody else come in, and then we run the ball 2-3 plays in a row, and then bring the big guys back in. And it's not like those 2-3 plays running the ball didn't matter. It's just more, you can put the other guys in to handle that kind of stuff when it's that kind of situation. I think that's what Ogbah and them are going to be for. Ogbah's too good of a pass rusher to ask him to drop back in pass coverage.
Well, I think they do it just to help disguise what's being shown. They don't do it that often, but when it's called for and it succeed and they are successful in pass coverage, I think that sets them up for success, further into the game. That's kind of the point. But even with the corners and stuff and disguising what the linebackers are going to do, and when you see Andrew Van Ginkel out there, you don't know if he's what he's going to be doing, if he's coming straight for you, or maybe he backs out and is covering the flat or what. I just think it's hard, man. He's going to be missed, and like we said, he's probably a top 5 player in the game, and you're going to notice it, and maybe not so much versus an inept offense like the Jets. Or maybe even the Commanders here. I don't know. But when it comes to playoff time, and, teams watch tape, and they're going to know what the difference is between Emmanuel Ogbah and Jalen Phillips. Players know, coaches know, teams know. They watch tape, and they're going to try to expose it now.
I was really excited to see him down the stretch when we had Baltimore late, Buffalo late, going into the playoffs. I was really excited to see how he was going to handle his own in those kind of big time situations.
Yeah, imagine playing against Lamar Jackson.
That's what we drafted Phillips for. We drafted him that early to have one of these elite top end pass rush guys that not only can get to the quarterback, but if the quarterback takes off, he has the speed and athleticism to run him down in certain situations.
Yep, for Josh Allen, for Lamar Jackson,
literally for them.
Exactly. Yeah, but I look at our score predictions that we had. We had this Washington game written down as, I had it as 10-24 Miami. And I almost chose it as my trap game, and I could see that I crossed it out and moved it down to the next one, the Titans game. But you had it 27-20, Washington. You had Washington winning this game.
It's sketchy, bro. And I still don't like it. I know you're not worried about the run, like, at all, but I am. Yes, our defense has shown up and gotten a lot better, but this is just one of those sketchy games where we're coming off a weird week, an emotional week. We have 17 players on the injury report. This is one where they can just say, you know what, we're going to feed Brian Robinson over and over again and then just try to hit you guys with some crazy play action here and there. And I don't know. It could still get sticky. If I could redo my score prediction, I think it's going to be a similar score to the Jets game last week. Hopefully, we just kind of smack them up 34 to, 10? But I could very easily also see us just getting caught on this one. And if we did get caught on this one, I could live with it. You just can't get caught to Tennessee. Because this is an NFC game. This doesn't really... All it would really do is give Buffalo a little bit more of a chance to jump back into it. But...
they have such a tough
and
schedule.
So do we. So, again, if you do drop this one, you just can't drop Tennessee.
Nah, their schedule. They're playing everybody that everyone was clowning us for losing. They still got to play Chiefs. They still,
and they lost the first one already. So, like we've said, if they lose 2 of those, it's over for them. And they're
Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers, Patriots, Dolphins. Yeah, you ain't winning 3 of those.
You know what I mean? It's over.
But I do agree with you. It's got a feel to it where obviously that could happen, but just I don't know, man.
It can't happen.
It's weird when you see it. When you see an NFC team and an AFC team match up in regular season, they are strange games. For instance, you look at the way that Washington plays Philly, their divisional rivals. They played twice this year, and it's been almost to overtime both games. The Eagles have had to win the game versus Washington twice this year in the fourth quarter with like 5 minutes or less. Like it comes down to the wire. So they can play. I just don't think that they're built for what we got going on. Even a sorry, performance like some of these other games that we lost, like versus the Chiefs and versus Philly, our offense, or games that our offense looked a little inept, like, maybe some parts of the Raiders game. I feel like it's going to be one of those games where it's unnecessarily sweaty, but we still are in control in the driver's seat the whole time. I don't think that their defense, after losing the pass rush, they're just not built for what we're about to do on offense.
They still
really
have a very strong interior D-line, and with how hodgepodgey our O-line is, I don't know, bro, but I wouldn't say that they don't have pass rush no more. Yes, they got rid of a very high-end pass rusher and a developing pass rusher in Chase Young, but Daron Payne and the rest of those dudes, still Jonathan Allen, they still get after it.
No, they're great. That's for running it up the middle. We're not about to do that. There's teams where I was scared about, like the Jets. Remember we talked about the Jets, and I was worried about the outside zone and how they don't let teams do it. Well, you saw Raheem cutting on the inside of the tackles a lot. This team right here, they're strong inside, but this outside zone is about to bleed them out. And if Devon Achane plays and we're running the outside zone and it's succeeding, it's going to be a long day for these guys. I hope so. But
yeah, let's go get it.
I got the long guy returning behind me, so you got any other words?
I'm fired up, bro. I'm really looking forward to seeing that 9-3. I know 8-4 is still, pat yourself on the back and all that, but man, 9-3 makes me hard. That is what I'm trying to see going into Monday. So let's get it after it, boys. Let's get it, Tua. Let's get it, Coach. I'm confident. Fins for the win.
No, I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling like this is going to be like you said, the point in the season where things start to fire. You start to figure out who's who, who's here to contend in the November and on aspect. And in Hard Knocks, they talk about how this is when the season really actually starts. Bill Belichick used to say that, and it's not wrong. Thanksgiving and on. But yeah, feeling good. We'll see. We'll return and talk about how this Washington game went. Until then, man, follow Chief Sut on Twitter at Chief Sut. Follow me on Twitter at YFinsYY. Follow the podcast at Day One Dolphins. Stay up to date. Thanks,
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1. Yes, we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1. Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the